All right, good evening. Welcome to the December 12th, 2023 Development Review Commission hearing. The Development Review Commission is created to hold public meetings and hearings to provide analysis and recommendations to the City Council regarding general land use policies and applications where the Commission has recommendatory power, and to render final decisions on specified applications where the Commission has final decision-making power, including but not limited to all aspects of a proposed and future development. The Development Review Commission recognized that the creation of a desirable environment throughout the city for residents, businesses, and industry is a prime requisite for the interdependence of land values, aesthetics, and good site planning by promoting harmonious, safe, attractive, and compatible development that is therefore considered to be in the best interest of public health, safety, and general welfare. Any person aggrieved by a final decision of the Development Review Commission may file an appeal to the City Council within 14 calendar days after the Development Review Commission has rendered its decision. Development Review Commission recommendations to the City Council are not final decisions. This evening with us tonight, to my right, I have Alternate Commissioner Charles Redmond, Alternate Commissioner Rhiannon Corbett, myself, Commissioner Michelle Schwartz. To my left, Commissioner Barbara Lloyd, Commissioner Linda Spears, and Commissioner Joe Forte. In the audience and with us tonight, we have with city staff, Jeff Tamalevich, Ryan Levesque, Malin Pankowitz, Diana Kaminsky, Chris Jasper, Whitney Mayfield, Joanna Berry, and Eddie Garcia. For those of you who are here to speak on an item this evening, we do have comment cards available in the back. You just need to fill one out and provide it up here. We do have a number of items on our agenda this evening that we intend to put on a consent agenda where we will make one vote for each of those items. I will read those for you in a moment. All right. First item on our agenda this evening is the consideration of meeting minutes for study session and regular session of November 14th, 2023. I'm looking for a motion. All right.
I move for the approval of the commission study session and regular meeting from November 14th.
Do I have a second?
I actually was there.
All right. Yes. Commissioner Redmond.
I second that motion.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Spears, seconded by Commissioner Redmond. Now we'll take a vote on the regular and study session meeting minutes for November 14th. All those in favor, you can raise your hand. Okay. We have a vote of 4 with 2 abstentions. Commissioner Forte and Commissioner Corbett abstaining. Right. This evening on our consent agenda, I'd like to read the items that we have on our consent agenda, those being item number 3, PL 230296, Santoro Residence. Item PL 230305, Atazukman Residence. PL 230309, Keller Residence. Item number 7, PL 230339, Ascension Massage Therapy. And item PL 230342. Again, if anyone's here and wants to be heard on those items, we will be voting this on one single vote of approval. I don't see anyone moving. All right, in looking at our consent agenda, I'd like to ask for a motion.
I move for the consent, approval of the consent agenda.
I will second that. Sorry.
All right. We have Commissioner Spears with a motion to approve the consent agenda, seconded by Commissioner Forte. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All right. Consent agenda approved, 6-0. All right, that leaves us with one item to hear this evening, which is PL 230326, the Lewis residence. At this time, I'd like to invite the applicant up to speak to the commission.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Fowler. I'm the applicant for Lori Lewis, representing the Lewis residents. This is for the use permit, for the ZUP use permit for the single-story addition of a second-story deck to a single-story residence. Oh, thank you. Where's my? Perfect. Basic information up here. Let me just give you a quick background as to why we're even here to begin with. This is an interesting situation because we're going through this for the second time, even after previous approval. We even had the construction documents, the building plans approved. We did not have our civil approved. We had an issue with a consultant. This was also during COVID, and it was not in the client's best interest to pursue the construction portion of this project during that time. Their bids were very inflated, and so it created quite a hardship. With that being said, when the project got put back in place, here we are going through this step. You can see the aerial view, and the two highlighted areas are the addition of the new single-story structure in green, single-story structure below it in blue, but in blue, above that single-story structure is a walk deck. Here's the site plan. You can see the new deck is on the southeast corner of the residence, and you can also see it in relation to the neighbor's home to the south. When we first submitted for this last year, there was pushback for noise pollution, light, things of this nature, but they were addressed, and we'll show again how we addressed those initial comments and how we intend to follow through with those. Nothing has really changed from the initial submittal. I think, if anything, a few of the design ideas have been refined a little bit so that we can get all parties on the same page. Some of those initial concerns were the size of the deck. Again, there were comments that the deck was too large. It was about 500 square feet. It's been reduced to 300 square feet. The screening of the deck as well, from privacy issues, people looking into other people's backyards, was a concern. So the screening of the deck was amplified to surround the entire deck. Before, it was simply a guardrail, pretty standard deck situation, but this has a screen over that encompasses the stairs up to the deck, as well as a 360 around the deck. So you can see here, these are the adjustments that were initially made. The top image is the deck as it was originally proposed, and then at the bottom image, you can see its reduction. This is the initial, or the property as it exists, and this is a shot of the neighbor's house to the south. You can already see there's quite a bit of natural vegetation provided by that homeowner on the south side of the property. There's also very similar thing going in this picture. You can see the tree, this very large tree, that's to the north. Both of these sides of the yard can be manicured and prepped in different ways to accommodate some type of additional screening. And you can see the original deck where it only had a portion of the screening around the deck, but the image up above, the elevation, the east elevation, shows where we've now encompassed it 360 and completely enclosed the stairs, which is best represented in this picture. The bottom model, you can see what it was kind of originally proposed, and now you can see at the top south elevation what we're showing. This is a little mock-up, kind of just some general ideas of the ambiance and kind of what is intended for this deck. It is intended to be a cozy area, a sitting area, just a relaxing spot. Some of the other issues, again, that were brought up initially, noise pollution, a party deck, these type of terms have been thrown around, and we just want to ensure, assure everybody that that is just not the case. There's a number of things right off the bat. The property is zoned and able to have a two-story residence on it. So as far as privacy and lurking into people's backyards, that kind of gets thrown right out the window. In addition, you could build a deck right off of the second story and would be intrusive and would satisfy the needs that we want, but doesn't tuck itself into the design very, very nicely and is just kind of an eyesore. I don't think what we've done here and what we're presenting is any sort of that situation. It nestles itself into the existing landscape just fine. It brings some interesting new character. I know, as being someone who went to school at ASU, lived in Tempe for many years, this is not a place that is turning their heads to something that's a little creative or something new. I know that we like to rehab these properties, gentrify, make them interesting, and make these properties desirable for the future. And I think that's exactly what we've done here. In addition to some of the concerns about the noise, I'm not sure that a second-story deck is an invitation for college students to party. I don't think they need one. This is a large lot. We could easily design a backyard ramada with a outdoor kitchen and put in a pool. And I don't know what's creating more noise on a deck than any other circumstance of having a yard that you can enjoy, and people are going to have noise. The other issue is that it might be a rental house for the college students. Well, we do happen to be in the neighborhood of one of the largest universities in all of the nation. So that's a little bit of victim of circumstance, I think. And the intent is not for these owners, if they decide to speak, for them to rent it out. It is their son's property. But nobody's saying that even if they did rent it out to somebody that wasn't a college student, that they're going to be terrific neighbors. There's no guarantees that because you don't have a deck in your backyard, that you're not going to make noise and that you're not going to be disruptive. So we took all these things into consideration, understood that the neighbors don't want something that's intrusive and would like something that kind of settles it back into the property, something that's just not, such a shock to them. And I think we've done that and are willing to work with the neighbors a little bit more to make sure that those are all met. But as far as the zoning ordinance, the ability to put up a second story, we're really not doing anything that's going to be intrusive even to that nature. And again, as far as noise pollution and these types of things, this is not intended for a party deck, and it's not something that would bring any more additional noise than the property as itself exists could already bring. So I think that argument's a little unfounded. Pretty much that is it. If you guys have any questions for me.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. Open it to the commission for any comments or questions for the applicant. Yeah, Commissioner Lloyd?
Thank you. I have two questions. The changes that you made to the size and like the screen wall and just kind of the stairs and the design, have those been made since the prior use permit was approved, or?
No, these elevations that you'll see here and that are also part of the building plans is identical. These are not different.
Okay.
The screen has not changed.
And the material of the floor of the deck, is that just wood?
Yes, it'll be foamed, and it's got scuppers for drainage. They'll make sure to put on a deck that is capable of taking a lot of the additional furniture or any additional foot traffic, because obviously, regardless of how minimal the foot traffic is, it's going to get more than a roof would ever inquire. So it will have the slip deck finish on it, and yeah, it will be
Because my concern
light
on that is if
reflective.
it's wood and it's exposed to the sun and the rain and the elements, it's probably not going to last very long.
No,
so-
but again, it'll be foamed and it'll have the reflective surface that is required, as well as the slip deck surface, everything per building standards and building code.
Thanks.
Any other commission members? All right, I appreciate that. We'll call up Ms. Kaminsky from City to share her presentation, and if we have additional comments, we'll bring you back up.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Diana Kaminsky, Senior Planner of the City of Tempe. The request before you tonight is located on the east side of Roosevelt Street. It is zoned for multifamily. It is a single-family residence. It is a single-story house. As you've heard from the presentation, they're looking at doing a second-story deck. In this picture you've already seen. The one thing I wanted to point out is the stairwell on the south side is within the south setback to the house. One of the things staff had asked the applicant is if it was possible to either incorporate the stairwell inside the house. Obviously, because of the way the deck is designed, that would require a separate stairwell, actually adding to the height of the structure. So then we had conversations about possibly locating it as a spiral staircase on the east side, which would be the rear yard, again, to try to separate the stairwell from the residences. They chose to use the same design that they had in their previous application. This will show you the existing house on the lower left, and the center shows you what the roof deck itself looks like with the lines of the roof line in front of it and to the north of it. And then on the right side shows you the addition to the house in the rear and where the roof deck would be located on the top of that. The proposed design includes a slatted wall finish that is a wood finish. It's basically 4-inch boards spaced 4 inches apart, so it's not a solid wood wall. There's gaps between, as shown in the rendering on the lower left. So we did look at this from the criteria within the code. There are other residences in the area that have second-story additions, outdoor decks, and patios. We were looking at this as a single-family residence, the number of bedrooms they had, where it was located on the site, and the context to the street front. We did not anticipate that this would have additional vehicular pedestrian traffic beyond what would be normal for our single-family residents. The nuisances that were mentioned earlier, we were concerned with. That is one of the reasons we asked to have the stairwell located into the backyard, a little bit away from the neighbor's house. But again, they weren't willing to do that. Contribution to the deterioration of the neighborhood. Again, we looked at other locations in the area that had second floor outdoor amenity spaces, and it is consistent with the surrounding areas. They'd be making an investment to the home with the improvements on the first floor as well. This lists the other locations in the area that have second-story additions with use permits. And obviously, adequate control of behavior is one that's hard to enforce. It's something that you don't know until the person lives there and how they behave as a neighbor. So all we can go on is the fact that they did reduce the size of the yard, the patio area from 500 to 300, and they were willing to provide a landscape buffer. We went over the presentation that they had given us with regards to the landscape buffer. We have some additional conditions related to that. There was not a neighborhood meeting required for this. We did receive, actually, since this slide was made, additional comments. We had 2 people who asked for copies of the plans in advance. We had a total of 7 people that either emailed or called with concerns about this. So we have a significant public opposition that came today and yesterday predominantly. Based on the 2020 approval of this by both the commission and the council, staff was recommending approval subject to conditions. However, we did add some additional conditions, and the applicant has reviewed those conditions and agreed to them. The proposed modifications, they had agreed to raise the height of the 6-foot walls on both the north and the south perimeter. which is adjacent to their neighbors. However, without knowing the construction of those walls and whether or not they could take the additional height without a building permit, we have a condition here related to that. Depending on the construction of those walls, they need to coordinate that with the adjacent properties to have owner authorization before they can modify the walls. If they need to get building permits or replace the wall, that would be something they would need to do. Condition 4 was related to the landscape buffer and wanting to make sure that the north and south sides provided mature plant height. And number 5 was related to potentially the types of plants that they were proposing. And I didn't want to have them come in with, for instance, a ficus hedge that really needs a large area to grow in, and have them plant something 2 feet from an existing wall that could damage somebody else's property. So the conditions here were to not allow the use of a ficus hedge and to consider trees that would, or shrubs that would grow in the narrow space that's left on that south and north side of the property. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff?
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll open for the hearing for public input. I do have 2 cards here to read. Once I read your name, if you would come up and state your name and city of residence for the record. You will have 3 minutes to provide your comments to the commission. First up, we have Karen Morrissey.
Thank you. My name is Karen Morrissey, City of Tempe. Just got my hip replaced, but I'm here in person because I think it's really important for you to hear my voice, consider my voice, and talk a little bit about history, what we've learned in 4 years. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to ask you to vote no on the second-story deck. There is a privacy. Okay, there is a privacy issue. Each lot here is 50 feet wide. It's really narrow. It's 1,000 square feet total, 200 deep. There's plenty to build on. Going up and being in the air at 12 feet, looking over your neighbors is not an optimal spot to put a deck. It's not comparable with existing structures. The use permit's asking something for more than like the Tempe citizens wants. Let's talk about a little bit about the use permit. They have to have 5 satisfying points to satisfy increased vehicle traffic. I disagree with the city. I think the deck will bring additional vehicle and foot traffic into the neighborhood for people for gatherings, nuisance from gas, odor, noise, and vibration. Yes, it will bring noise and vibration, especially up in the air. Deterioration of the neighborhood. The deck will open the party up to big gatherings. If the property changes hands, which it might change hands, it would be a desirable home for a frat house or an Airbnb. Out of control of disruptive behavior, I'm not even going to go there. I was woken up from an Airbnb party that had 100 shots down the street. It scares me. You can't control everybody that you bring to your party. Compatibility of existing structures. If you take a look at our neighborhood and the pictures they showed, these decks are all small decks. They're all on the end streets. Nothing's in the middle. You know, these all small decks. You know, I appreciate they went from 500 or 600 to 300, but that's still 1/3 the size of my house. Okay, so not only am I the neighbor, I'm also the president of the neighborhood association, and we did get a lot of people, our neighbors, that don't want it, and I hope you can read their thoughtful comments on that, because we're all afraid of that. Nobody wants a big old deck next to them. I wanted to also kind of talk about where we were here before the initial meeting. There's Chairman Lyons all of a sudden talked about going up on his roof and partying, and so he actually took this and said, well, let's go ahead and do a continuance and talk. So we did that, but then we talked to the one gentleman that was like in charge of the information, and he didn't really have any sort of like decision-making abilities. It was all Ms. Lewis's, and she'd never ever met with us. So we're really not on the same page. We don't mind a big old house, second story, no problem. We just don't want the deck. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morrissey. Our next comment card is from Kathleen Palmer. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not very loud.
if you could just again state your name and city of residence for the record into the microphone, thanks.
Okay, hi, my name's Kathleen Palmer. I live at 925 South Roosevelt, next door to the Lewis property on the south side. The proposed second-story patio deck is on my side and faces my home. It affects my family directly. I am against the proposed second-story deck. This deck is like an outdoor living room and would invade my privacy daily and create a lot of noise. The staircase will be very noisy. It's unattractive and 6 feet from my property. It is an encroachment on the setback. My family has made this home since 1978 for 45 years. I raised my son here, and we've made a life here in this house and neighborhood, and I spend a lot of time in my backyard gardening. This rooftop patio is not a good fit for these narrow 50-foot wide lots. Sounds and views are close up. An open deck 10 feet up with an outdoor stairway that faces my bedroom window, patio, and back door is much more intrusive and noisy and will invade my privacy. Noises can be louder and carry, especially when it's 10 feet to 15 feet up with nothing shielding it. There's nowhere in my backyard that they can't see and overlook. From their vantage point, they can see into my living room, my dining room, my kitchen, patio, and my bedroom window. Also, all of my backyard, all 7,200 square feet of it. If I wanted to see their yard, I would have to stand on a ladder to see over the fence. If they build the deck, there would no longer be an equality of privacy for me. This deck is not a necessity. Brett Lewis will have about 2,000 square feet of living space, 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, living room, kitchen, great room, 2 porches on the back and front, a carport, storage room, and patio on the back, plus 4,500 square feet left in the yard behind. If this use permit is denied, there's no hardship here for the Lewis family. Once built, this deck could always be a source of nuisance no matter who lives there, whether it be the Lewis family, renters, or sold to new people. The added privacy screens and landscaping do not have permanency, and they can be removed in the future by whoever lives there. I urge the DRC to listen to the neighbors of this project who have lived in their homes for many decades and show some respect and compassion for their concerns. We are only against the recreational deck and stairway, not the addition of renovation. Decisions made by the DRC should not be made lightly, as they will have a direct and lasting effect on the quality of life for the adjacent neighbors who will actually have to live with the outcome of this if approved. The narrow outcomes of the 2020 vote indicate that the city council, half the city council and 3 DRC members agreed with the neighbors and thought the deck was inappropriate. Please vote to deny this permit. Thank you for your time. Any questions? No? Thank you.
Thank you. We have one additional comment card, Brett Lewis.
Hi, my name is Brett Lewis. I've lived in the neighborhood one street over for 10 years, so I have been a part of this neighborhood, although not a part of this house specifically. As you know, the plans were previously approved, and there have not been any modifications since. It's just kind of been a issue between COVID and construction costs and slow down some engineering issues that have kind of delayed it up to this point where we needed to readdress this in front of you today. Regarding comment that Karen made, there was like a bit of a remediation process previously where we had to discuss between the first meeting and the second meeting. I believe there's a city email that coordinated for us to all meet. Karen never accepted to meet with us. We went and did meet with Kathy and talk about these concerns, modify the plans. That's kind of where those modifications came from. But Karen initially did not want to meet, even though she says we didn't meet. There were emails with the people from the city that have record of that as well. As far as the privacy screening, I believe she'd kind of said it was panels that were gapped 4-inch panels. The concept we had was actually that it would be panels with, on the opposite side, alternating panels. So it wouldn't be visible through, it would have airflow and stuff, but it would be alternating panels. So there's not actually a gap. That is the concept that we had discussed and as I understand it was previously approved. If anyone had any questions.
Does any of the commission have a question for Brett Lewis?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Forte?
Why are you building a deck up? You have so much room in the backyard. Why don't you just put like a patio over there?
Yeah, so the idea was to maintain as much of the green space as possible, obviously adding the master portion, which is on the back of the house, which extends it out the 20 or 30 feet or whatever past the current point, was eating into the existing yard space, and I wanted to maintain as much yard space as possible. I work from home due to chronic disease. I've never really held employment anywhere but work from home for the past 10 years. If down the line, there was also some thought that I might add an additional just office unit in the back, so I wasn't trying to take up extra space for just potential things down the line. And by office unit, I mean just like a 10 by 10 workspace.
I'm looking at the plans and the new deck. Does it have anything under it?
Yeah, the master bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the addition. So there's that part is an addition of the house. The deck is above that master bedroom addition that's on the back.
Got it. Okay. No further questions.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'd like to ask if the applicant would like to come back up and respond to any of the public comments or questions.
Just like to thank you guys for hearing us and hearing from the owner as well. I guess if I was going to respond, I would say that the main issue here is not a design issue. It's clearly a privacy issue. It's a party issue. It's a college people issue. And unfortunately, for those that are opposing, that's all based on assumptions and speculation. So I'm really, again, want to put the focus on that we're taking all the necessary steps to get this approved by the city of Tempe. We, of course, take all the necessary steps to make sure it's built to code. And we've done the necessary steps to make sure that it's a design that fits and is something that's unique and gives a little bit of characteristic to this area, which we know will continue to develop. There's nothing slowing down Tempe. And so I just want to put a little focus on what seems to be the major issue here that has nothing to really do with so much of the building itself, but the possibility of those who inhabit it. And I also want to reemphasize that with a deck or not, the possibility of neighbors and the inhabitants that own that house down the road or at any time can find plenty of ways to make noise or be intrusive without a deck. It just doesn't invite noise. I don't think that is a really valid argument. Again, it's not something that it's less than the square footage of, it's 100 square feet less than a standard garage. It's going to have patio furniture on it. When was the last time you and 30 of your best friends piled into a garage to have a party? You know, this is just, again, all very much speculation, and I just want to let everybody know that it's not the intended use of the owners, and it's nothing that we understand we could control in the future. Don't have any intention of controlling it in the future. This is what it is. We think we've done a very nice job of giving Brett something unique, and that we are certainly, again, open to making sure that we work with the neighbors. So, thank you.
Thank you. I do have a question for staff. If you could address the comment regarding the screen wall being either a one contiguous material or kind of a staggered material.
Sure. When I received the additional drawings, let's see here. It wasn't really clear on the drawings that you see on the right, the slats, and you can kind of see the person behind it. And I asked specifically, is this a continuous wood wall, or are there separations? And it was explained to me that, and I don't know if I can zoom in, that they were actually gapped. And then the drawing on the left, which was the rendering that was provided, kind of reflected similarly. So it was based on the conversation with the applicant, not the owner, that was the design intent. So,
And do we know the building permits that were previously approved? What if this was the condition that was in those plan sets?
I believe, and I didn't review the building set, but I believe the drawings that you're seeing here were what was submitted for building permits.
Okay. Any other items you'd like to address based on what you heard tonight? Yeah. Commissioner Lloyd?
Thank you. In regards to the other examples of second-story decks in the neighborhood, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but how do they compare in terms of proximity to the adjacent neighbors? Because this is quite close. Are they just
Sure.
as close?
Well, and I didn't include pictures of those. I do know that when I looked at them, one or two of them were corner lots, and one of them was actually on the back portion of the lot. So they had like a accessory building in the back with a second-story addition to it, and just the walkway that went up from the stairs, external stairs to the upper floor. So it was a different situation on each of the ones that I looked at. I don't know if there'd be any potential of them reconsidering the location of the stairwell. I think that might help in this case if they were to do the stairwell off of the east side of the property in their backyard. They've got a covered area that you can see there towards the backyard that's like a first floor deck, and maybe they could move the stairwell to be in their backyard and not on that side yard as a possible condition of approval.
Appreciate that. One additional question with the stairwell, that is still in the setback, correct?
Yes, it is. This is kind of a unique situation. If it were a stairwell leading to livable space as part of the footprint of the building, then it would be encroaching in the setback and would not be allowed. But because it's an external stairwell that's going to an outside deck that is not part of the building, you could remove the stairwell and there would be no impact to the livability of the house. It's allowed to be in the setback. Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. Any more questions for staff?
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, the public hearing portion of this item is closed. I would like to open it up for any commission discussion on record. Commissioner Spears?
I think that the additional conditions of approval added by staff are attempting to address the privacy issues it doesn't sound like the issue has to do with where the privacy issue doesn't appear to be where the stair is located. It's people concerned about looking out over the deck. Those are long, deep lots. And so I think that it's a different perspective than you would see otherwise. It is, the lots are very narrow. There have been all kinds of additions to houses in those areas. And I think that, you know, I think it's an improvement to the neighborhood.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Forte?
I didn't even realize the button was on. Yeah, it's kind of just odd to me, and I understand the perspective from the neighbor because it's going to literally look in her house, and it's not like there's not room to have a deck on the first floor. So I'm not for it. That's my thought.
Yep. You could- Yeah, I guess, would your opinion be changed with additional conditions of approval relating to moving the stairwell?
Well, I don't think it's a stairwell issue, and it's not theoretical either. I know the applicant was like, theoretically, if there was people out there, the neighbor lives there, and people going on it would look directly in her backyard. And so I think the condition, yes, is more privacy related, but it doesn't seem like the owner has been working with the neighbors to address that. So yeah, that's my thought. I don't think it's a stairwell issue at all. I mean, I think it's people on the deck, like looking down on the other side.
Commissioner Lloyd?
Thank you. I'm inclined to agree with Commissioner Forte. I do think that the narrowness of these lots leads this to potentially create a nuisance for those immediate adjacent neighbors, and you can't put the genie back in the bottle once you approve this and how that deck is used. I might feel differently if they did not have additional area to actually have an entertainment or patio furniture on their property. So I'm inclined not to support it.
Any other comments on the record? Commissioner Spears?
One additional comment, because we are short a commission member. I don't know if the applicant would be interested in delaying the case simply because
Yeah.
we are missing a commission member.
Yeah, so in order to approve this evening, knowing that we have only 6 commission members here, we do have to have a vote of 4 to approve any item this evening, and we will, pending delaying a vote or postponing it, we would need to have a 4 votes in favor of any sort of approval.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Redmond.
before you go too far down that path, I'm really torn by this. If I lived there, I would like to be able to do what I want, but choosing to live in a 50-foot wide lot precludes privacy. Having said that, too many people don't want this. So I'm not for it.
Yeah, appreciate that, Commissioner Redmond. Again, we have not made a vote yet this evening, but the commission is just sharing their opinions as to our thoughts and sharing that here with the attendees this evening. Commissioner Corbett?
Yes, I just would like to say I agree with Commissioner Lloyd's comments. It seems like there is some space here to build, into the yard rather than up in this instance. And I would say absent more space, then maybe I would be inclined to agree.
Appreciate that. and thank you all for sharing your comments. I guess I will share a few additional items. I was present on the initial case here and was not in favor of this addition. I am very appreciative of the fact that the deck was made smaller and some of the visual changes that were made as far as trying to protect some of that privacy. That being said, I still feel like the development of that within what would normally be considered a setback does start to encroach upon the south side of the property. And I'm not in favor of moving forward with the case.
I have one final comment.
One final comment, Commissioner Lloyd?
I did just want to make a comment to the applicant that in spite of the fact that I may not support this deck, I do appreciate the design of your addition of the building. It's very well done, and so I just wanted to at least compliment you on that, because I think it's a very nice renovation.
I guess the last item, I would be more in favor if we were to add the item of condition of approval to move that stairwell as an option. Just putting that out there for the commission. I will be looking to entertain a motion.
Can the applicant indicate whether they would like to see a,
At this time, it is the commission's call on a continuance. It's not the applicant's call.
I will make, we'll move that we continue this case until we have a full commission.
Do I have a second? The motion on the table is a continuance. All right, I believe we need to try again. Commissioner Lloyd?
Okay, thank you. I make a motion to deny case PL 230326.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
Ladies first.
All right. The motion is to deny PL 230326. The motion was by Commissioner Lloyd and seconded by Commissioner Corbett. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All right. All those opposed? All right. The motion passes 5-1 with Commissioner Spears in dissension. All right, that is our case for this evening. We'll move on to item 9 on our agenda, which is any announcements. Malin, any announcements this evening, or commission member announcements first? Any commission member announcements? Happy holidays. This is our last commission meeting of 2023. All right. Any city staff announcements? Item number 10.
We do not have announcements.
Right.
We just wanted to wish you happy holidays as well.
All right. All right. With that, that concludes our Development Review Commission meeting, and the meeting is adjourned.